What is up, guys? My name is Lex. Today we're playing at Seminole Hard Rock in Hollywood, Florida. 2-5, no limit. Buying it for $1,000. Let's get started. Under the gun makes a strong play of limping for $5. We have ace-8 of spades in the cutoff. This is a raise or fold scenario, and because I'm trying to play some pots, I think a raise is fine. Trying to isolate the limper, I make it $30. Isolating does not work, though, when the button calls. Small blind calls and limper calls. 4 ways to a 6-7-6 board. 2 spades. We flop the nut flush draw. Under the gun now decides to lead into me for a $10 bet. He bets $10 into a $120 pot. We have the nut flush draw and 2 overcards. I think a raise is good here, but we still have 2 other players left behind. And older guys who play at the Hard Rock are just notorious of doing really odd plays, trying to be tricky. I could see him doing this really small bet with trips or a full house, trying to bait me into a raise so that he can re-raise. So I decide to just call. Button folds, small blind folds, so we're heads up to the turn, which is the 4 of diamonds. Does improve me now to a gut shot. Any ace, 8, spade, or 5 potentially could give us the best hand. Under the gun continues his story by betting $10 again. Well, just gonna call here. The river's the king of diamonds. Backdoor flush gets there. We do not improve. He looks down with a stack. If he bets anything more than $10, I'm just gonna fold. But he bets $10 for a third time. Maybe ace high is good.
10.
Alright, I pay.
Queen high.
Ace high.
No.
I called $10 with ace high and he shows queen 9 offsuit. So yeah, we take this one down. No idea what he was doing there with that bet, but ace high is good. We end up taking down this pot. Next hand, there's a $20 raise. I have my first big premium pocket pair of the day, pocket kings. I re-raise 3x out of position. My opponent makes a call. In these 2-5 games, I pick my raise sizings according to my opponent's stack size. My opponent has about $600, so I just make it 3x. If he was deeper, I might make it 4 or 5x out of position here with pocket kings. We see a queen high board, very safe for us. I'm hoping he has a top pair like ace queen, king queen, or queen jack. I continue for $55, and he lets this one go. Next hand here is a big one. Under the gun +1 limps. I have 6 of spades, 6 of clubs on the button. I want to try to raise here in position, try to build a pot in case I hit a set. I make it $20. Small blind calls. Big blind wants to play for more. He bumps it up here to $60. Folds back over to me. Big blind has about $800 in his stack, and small blind has about $1,000. I feel like we're getting the implied odds here to set mine in position, so I make the call. 3 ways. 2, 7, 5, 6, 2 diamonds. We make a set. A lot of players are extremely unbalanced when it comes to 3 bets, especially out of position. A lot of players will just call with strong hands like ace queen suited, ace king, ace jack suited because they just want to see a flop and try to smash the board. So when my opponent re-raises me pre-flop to $60, I put him on one of 3 hands, pocket queens, kings, or aces, which makes this even better when he continues for $125. I'm now almost 100% sure he has one of those big overpairs, but this board is super wet and connected. I don't want to give a free card to the small blind. I want to try to build this pot up now, so I raise to $300. I chose a pretty small raise size of only 2.4x. I don't think we have to go too big here. We're just trying to isolate the big blind with his overpair and also try to price out the small blind. If I go huge like $450 or $500, it might allow the big blind to hero fold some of his big overpairs. By going $300, I'm hoping the small blind will fold and the big blind will either call or just rip his whole stack in there. I make it $300 with a set of 6s and a 3-bet pot, and so far this hand is going according to plan. Small blind makes the fold, and now the big blind doesn't think for too long and rips in his $700 stack. We make the snap call. I have a set.
Yeah. Of course you do.
All in for over $1,500. In the middle, our set of 6s holds. My opponent tells me he had pocket aces, so we got super lucky there, hitting a 2-outer on the flop. Within the first hour of our session, we're already up over $1,000. Moving on here, there's 2 $5 limps. The cutoff makes it $35. I have ace queen suited in the small blind. It's such a strong hand. I don't want to just flat call here and go multi-way out of position, so I decide to 3-bet out of position to $125. Only the cutoff makes the call. Heads up to a queen high board. I c-bet and take this one down. I think it's very important at low stakes poker games to pay attention to what's happening at the table. You want to know who the tight players are, who the loose players are, who's up money, who's down money, who may be tilting, who is bluffing too much, because you can use that information in hands in the future. This becomes a factor in this next hand. Button straddles for 10 small blind calls, and now the big blind raises to $50, which is a big sizing for a 2-5 game. The big blind is a tight player, really hasn't raised many hands in over 2 hours. He's not down money, he doesn't seem to be tilting. So with ace king in middle position, I decided to just flat call, putting the big blind on a super strong hand. Now the action's back over on the hijack player, who is a super passive player limping all the time, and he now re-raises the big blind to $175. So super interesting spot. We've got a tight player raising from early position to a 5x raise size, a call, and now another very passive player who's been limping the entire day puts in a 3-bet to $175. The action's now back over on the big blind, who raised to $50 pre-flop, and I guess our read pre-flop was wrong on this opponent because he eventually ends up folding, which was pretty surprising. The action's back over on me now with ace king facing a $175 raise. If the hijack player was a super loose action player raising all the time, I would consider putting in a back 4-bet here, but given the fact that this player had been limping basically every single hand he played, I think he's got a super strong hand. Like I said before, people are pretty unbalanced when it comes to 3-bets at the stake level. So I make the call. We go heads up in a 3-bet pot. Out of position with ace king. We completely miss on queen 8, queen rainbow. I quickly check over to the hijack, who continues for a big bet. $300 worth of green chips here. The action's back over on me. We completely miss, but sometimes we're going to be chopping with the hijack player. He could have ace king that he 3-bet pre-flop, and then now is betting big on this flop, trying to get me to fold and take down the pot. He could also have pocket kings and aces, and we could be drawing stone dead. So after thinking for a while, I decide to just let this one go, and I asked my opponent if ace high is good, and he was nice enough to show me his hand.
Ace high good or no? Bunch good. Thank you all very much. Have a good night. Thank you. Ooh.
You can see here in the slow-mo, he has pocket aces, ace of hearts, ace of spades. I guess we lost a minimum aces versus ace king. I'm just really glad I didn't hit an ace or a king on the flop. Moving on here, hijack limps for $5. Button races to $15, which just seems super small and weak. I don't think he's ever making it this sizing with a strong hand. So with jack 10 of spades in the big blind, I decide to re-raise here to $60. If my opponents fold, I can take down this money pre-flop, and if I get called, I can play heads up with a pretty good hand. The hijack folds, but the button makes the call. So we're heads up in a 3-bet pot. The board comes out 10 high. We make top pair. When my opponent raises to such a small sizing and then just calls pre-flop, I don't think he's going to have a premium like pocket jacks, queens, kings, or aces. So with top pair here, we should have the best hand a lot of the time. I bet big. I make it $100. He ends up making the call. The queen on the turn is actually a pretty bad card. Brings in some straights, and also now queen 9 and queen jack are beating us. I slow down and check, and the button checks back. The river pairs the board. It's another 4. Honestly, not the worst run out, not the best. Given the fact that he didn't bet the turn, I don't think he has a straight 2-pair or even a top pair holding. So I think sometimes I could bet here, but this time I decide to check, maybe allowing him to bluff the river. With the action over on the button, he decides not to check back this time. He puts out a bet. He assembles $170 and puts it in the middle, and now the action's back over on us in a 3-bet pot holding second pair. What should we do here facing this bet? I am now in the tank. I start trying to break down what my opponent can have. I checked on the turn and he checked back, so we can assume he doesn't have a straight 2-pair or set, because those hands would most likely always bet on the turn. So the way he played this, we can discount him having a super strong hand, but let's say he had a hand like queen jack or king queen that turned top pair and I checked to him, I think he would most likely be betting that hand as well. So given the fact that he checked back the turn, we can discount him from having super strong hands like sets, 2 pairs, straights, and even top pair holdings. So when he bets his sizing, I feel like he's either going for thin value with like ace 10, king 10, or a weaker 10, or he's bluffing. I don't normally like to pay off river bets because a lot of the time players just have it, but this hand doesn't make too much sense. I put in a call and he shows 8-10 of clubs for a 10, and we show jack 10 of spades, and we end up chopping this one up.
Good bluff.
After being card dead about an hour and a half, I finally pick up a playable hand under the gun. Pocket jacks, jack of spades, jack of diamonds. I raise to $20. There's 2 callers before the button puts in a 3-bet to $115. The action's back over on me. The button has about $900 in a stack, and I have to decide here, what should I do? Should I call? Should I fold? Or should I 4-bet? I'm a big fan of Jonathan Little and his hand quizzes as well, and we're going to do a little quiz here. Let's say you were in my spot. You have pocket jacks, you raise under the gun, you get 2 callers, and the button makes it $115. The action's back over on you. Would you A, call, B, 3-bet to $250, C, 3-bet to $325, or D, go all in? Take a second, pause the video, and come up with your answer. I've said this at least twice so far in this video that players at 2-5 are very unbalanced when it comes to 3-bets. There's been 2 3-bets at this table other than me, and each time the opponents had pocket aces. First time when I flopped a set of 6s, and the second time when I had ace-king. So we can assume that the button should have a strong hand, but I do have history with this particular player. About 2 years ago, I was grinding 2-5 almost every single day, and I watched him in a span of a couple months 3-bet very wide on the button, hands like king 9 suited, ace 5 of clubs, queen 10 offsuit. So he's a player who could have a wider range of 3-bets on the button, and he's not only 3-betting the nuts. So with that information and knowledge that he is capable of putting in some 3-bet bluffs on the button, pocket jacks are doing pretty good against that 3-bet bluffing range. If he's got us beat, I guess we're just going to lose some money here, but I'm not going to call. Let's put him to the test. I re-raise 4-bet to $325. Action folds back over to the button. I would hate to see him 5-bet here, but after tanking for about a minute and a half, he lets this one go. We take down a small pot. We end up switching tables, trying to find a little bit more action. Get over to table number 3, where we get into some interesting hands. At this new table, under the gun limps for $5, hijack calls $5, king jack offsuit on the button seems worthy of a raise. I make it $30. Under the gun calls, hijack calls 3 ways to 4, 5, 9, 2 spades. We totally miss. Checks to me. I check back. Turn queen, now giving us a gut shot straight draw, and now the under the gun player snap leads out for $45. The hijack calls $45, so given the fact that he did not raise, I don't put the hijack on a strong hand at all. It's a pretty close spot here with king jack. We have a gut shot straight draw. Maybe our king is good. We're getting a pretty good price. We could potentially bluff on the river if any scare card comes out. We could hit a king, make top pair. We could hit a 10 and make a straight. So I peel here and make the call, and we see an ace on the river. Interesting card, and now the under the gun player continues for $120. Hijack player pretty quickly gets out of the way. Action back over on me, stuck here with king high. We completely missed, but this river card is potentially one of those cards we could try to bluff on. This run out just favors me a lot more than the under the gun limper. We can have all the strong hands on this board. Pocket aces for top set, pocket queens for a set. We can have ace queen, and we can assume that if he limped under the gun and didn't limp re-raise, that he shouldn't have aces, queens, or ace queens. So I definitely have the range advantage. For some reason, I just felt like under the gun wasn't that strong, and I could try to bluff him off a queen x hand or possibly an ace x hand. So I turn my king high into a bluff here, trying to rep a set or 2 pair. I raise it up. I make it $325.
Raise. King high. Good, good. Good back.
Well, that didn't work. My opponent rivered 2 pair, and we just punted off over $300 to him. A seat opens to my right, and the same player I just tried to bluff moves to that seat and introduces himself that he's from Kansas and he's been watching all my videos. So, I guess if I had to give my money to somebody, I'm glad it's someone who watches the vlog. Next hand, we're going to battle again with our new friend from Kansas. Joseph makes it $15 in the cutoff. We've got the goods this time. Pocket queens to the ladies. I re-raise to $45. Folds back to him. He makes the call. Flop is 5, 6, 9 rainbow. On this board, it's going to favor his hands that he called with pre-flop compared to my hands that I 3-bet pre-flop. So I decide to check this one back for pot control and deception. Turn deuce of hearts, now bringing in a flush draw. Still seems like a pretty safe turn card here. Now Joseph leads out for 45 bucks. Sometimes I could be putting in a raise, but I decided to just try to keep all of his bluffs in and make the call. And the river is a pretty bad card. It's the 9 of hearts. This pairs the top card. We're now losing to a 9x hand, and the backdoor flush gets there. Joe continues now for $45. Against his sizing, I could raise, maybe trying to get called by pocket 10s or pocket jacks, but I decided to just call, and it's a good thing we did. He shows us the ace high flush, and he schools us again. He ends up taking down this pot.
Good way to miss the straight.
Bench, no good. All my chips.
I then get called for a 5-10 game. I sit down, buy in for $2,500, but throughout the next 2 hours, no real big notable hands happen, and we end up racking up our chips, heading to the cage, and cashing out for the night. I won $820 in this session. The next day I went to a Game 5 Florida Panthers versus the Capitals. It was a super exciting game with the Panthers coming from behind. They were down 3-0 to win 5-3. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Subscribe for more videos just like this one, and until next time, I'll see ya.